So the problem with an 80-word bio, which is what that was, I think it was actually 81, I snuck it in, is it kind of makes you sound narrow. I got a PhD here, I went to another university in the States, and then I came back here again. But it's actually, there's a bit that goes on before that, and there's a lot more detail in it. So the first thing, a bit of advice I'd give to everyone who's about to start on their career is, first thing you've got to have is an open mind about what you're going to do. So I'll give you the example of my career. I started out as a mechanical engineering student here, and I had a cadetship with the Water Authority, which is now the Water Corporation, which meant I was going to go and work for the Water Authority for 4 years after I graduated, and I did. Worked in electrical and mechanical design, and then I worked in headworks and treatment. Now I decided I wanted to stay on the technical path, so then I came back and did the PhD. That got me to America. I got the job at Los Alamos. And so I landed at Los Alamos, a nuclear weapons lab, the nuclear weapons lab, and found myself working with Procter & Gamble, helping them manufacture nappies. Some of the hardest stuff I've ever done. All mechanical engineering, or materials engineering strictly, but we wind up working with that. I then went to Texas Tech, and of course, you go to a university, you teach, but you also maintain relationships outside. I kept working with Procter & Gamble, but we also started taking on work in dispersion of pollutants, chemical and biological warfare agents. We even went to Chernobyl at one point to go and do some research over there and do a workshop over there with some Ukrainian and Russian scientists. And since I've come back, of course, now I've been in seed and I work with the companies around town, different companies all the time, and of course, build a lot of relationships around town. Now, whether you could have predicted that when I was a second-year engineering student who'd just been elected Ben Sinister editor back in the day, that might have indicated a different path. And the thing is, you don't know what your path is going to be. Your career is long. So what's that mean for you? You may think that we've trained you for a particular pigeonhole, but we haven't. We have trained you how to learn and how to adapt. We have taught you how to frame an analysis. One of the units I did in my final year was hydroacoustics and aerodynamic noise theory. I have never used that again. And I hated computational modelling, but that's what I do for a living now. So you never know which way you're going to go, and you shouldn't let any sort of pigeonholed ideas affect how you approach the hiring process. You might want to work for Woodside, you might want to work for BHP, but they'll have 5,000 applicants. And if you don't get in with that company of your choice, it's actually probably not a reflection on you. It's random chance to sometimes when you've got that many people applying. You might trip across the wrong criteria in the psych test and you won't even know what it is, nor could you know what it is. So you have to not take that stuff personally and then look for the next opportunity. Now the other thing you've got to do when you get into those environments, and Mark alluded to this a bit, is you've got to step up. Now, nowadays when I teach a class, I'll sit out there looking at 100 people and say, okay, someone give me the answer to this particular question, and I'll look up at 100 faces eagerly looking to not be noticed. And certainly no one's sticking their hands up. Well, that becomes a liability now. You want to stand out, but you want to stand out in a good way. So we've done hiring for seed projects recently where we're interviewing 5 candidates, and the successful candidate was the one who came in with the worst marks, clearly the worst weighted average coming into the interviews. And why was that? Well, because we knew what the subject of the seed project was, and we had certain questions about that, and she was the only one that had done the preparation. She'd read papers, she'd gone into the materials handbooks about the material we were interested in. So when we asked questions, she answered and showed some curiosity about the things that she didn't know. Other people went in there and answered the questions. They almost seemed proud that they didn't know. They were certainly overly comfortable with the fact that they knew nothing about what the project was going to be about and didn't try to think their way through it. So you step up. I mean, when I went to Los Alamos, I'd not done a lot of work on the materials that we'd done. I'd done a lot of work on finite element analysis, but I didn't know I was going to be dealing with the sort of cloths that go next to the baby's bottom. And then trying to figure out how they go through a manufacturing process. I've never done that before either. But you step in, you take it, and it became my project, so much so that when I went to Texas Tech, Procter & Gamble kept coming back to me. So you take those opportunities. You always want to step in, take that opportunity to learn, and every opportunity is a new chance to make a name for yourself. So always step into those things. All right, so I'll probably cover there since we've only got about 5 minutes each, but happy to take questions.
great attitude that we had earlier this year was when our graduate process engineer, he was in the office. All of the senior process engineers and the lead engineer were all out of the office. We got a phone call from a client, an oil and gas client. He wanted to talk to somebody about doing some simulation work. Nobody was there. The phone call got put through to Nick. He took it, he listened, he arranged a follow-up meeting, he went and had the meeting, he talked to his lead engineer when she came back, and they got the work, and he's been tic-tacking and client focal point since. And that's the sort of thing that you need to be able to take on, not sort of push that away. Humility. Ask for help. The learning curve is really steep when you come out of university into industry. You will have time to investigate and learn things. You're not expected to know everything. Ask questions, no silly questions. Somebody else mentioned that earlier. Work ethic. Be willing to take on additional responsibilities. Use your initiative. Skills, I think, was mentioned before. You know, skills in word processing, data manipulation, software, stuff like Excel. That's always very, very helpful. Finally, values. You know, we, and I believe most smaller, medium-sized enterprises, and probably most of the big ones too, would like creative people, and you are creative people. Engineers are creative people. You're problem solvers. That's what you are. Who are team players, and that act with integrity. So if you say you're going to do something, make sure that you do it. If you can't do something, say so. Those sorts of things. You might notice I haven't mentioned academic results. They matter as well when you're applying for a job. But to be honest, we're far more interested in what you do outside of your core, like was already mentioned before. We expect that UWA produces graduates of a certain technical capability. Same with Curtin, the same with ECU, same with Murdoch. That's all managed. You're coming out with the right capabilities. It's attitude, it's those extra things. It's are you part of a club? Are you volunteering? What do you do to help out on the monetary side? What do you do in your job? All of that sort of stuff. And try to work out ways to get that information across. In terms of our hiring for this year, we're not fixed and rigid about what we do. We're too small. We've got to be adaptable. So we don't have a staff of HR personnel. If you apply for a position with a company like mine, you can very much expect that it's going to be reviewed by the general manager or maybe the general manager's assistant, and there'll be some screening that'll get done initially. And like Anne said, you know, if there's a spelling mistake or you use the wrong name on the first page, there's a good chance that it'll just go, not enough attention to detail to work in an engineering office like ours, and it'll get put aside. So, you know, just by way of concluding from our point of view, so we are planning at this point in time to take on some graduate engineers in the new year. So I would encourage you to keep an eye on our website and our LinkedIn page. We'll probably be announcing something about that around October time. And yeah, I would encourage you to apply if you're interested in being in that engineering and design space. But at the time, take the opportunity to try and show how you are different, how you are you as well. So that's about it from me, I think.